One. All right.
Welcome back to another episode of the Breakeven Podcast. I'm Sagnik, we're your hosts. This is Rohan, and just because Val's gonna filter in and out, we also have a fellow. Can you put on some pants, please?
Oh my. Not this again.
Val has a
Please.
tendency of exposing himself, so
You literally can't even see.
yeah.
What do you mean? You can't even see.
Yeah.
You can't even see.
All right. Shit.
Okay. So today's episode, we've
A very
decided.
interesting topic, actually. Rohan and I came up with it. Well, we didn't come up with it, but we decided on this.
We certainly didn't come up with that.
That'd be interesting, right? Fucking cultists.
Should we? Should we start our own religion? I think it's worth a shot. I think it's worth a shot. Shut the fuck up. Who even asked the Chinese to interject? Pick a religion for God's sake.
I agree with him. I mean, look,
Me?
you.
I'm so confused.
My boy Rohan has gone through all the stages there are to absolute lunacy. He went on a panic-induced breakdown and made his room into a bloody fucking what's that thing called? An epileptic kid's worst fucking nightmare.
Bro, sometimes I wake up at night and just have seizures looking at the walls.
Your room is what Neil deGrasse Tyson would have had dreams about, ref.
That's actually true. I do want to show the ceiling, but I don't want to fuck up the camera angling, you know.
And now he's gone full cultist. He wants to start his
Gang.
own religion.
Gang.
What would the
Let's start, dude. Let's actually do this. Let's start a religion, okay? And now we just gotta find people. Tell me, Shagnik, where can we find young, stupid, impressionable people?
I'm gonna interject
Well-
right there, since I handle the PR of this podcast. So we'll move on. Right.
Alright.
Faith, a very interesting topic. So I'll open it up by saying currently, well, it's a question.
Wait, okay, actually, wait, pause. I will say one statement and then you start it off from there, okay?
One, yeah.
The one statement I have to make is, regardless of what faith we're talking about, it's important as a human being to have faith in something. Even if you are atheistic, you have to have faith in yourself to get yourself out of problems, right? So you, at the end of the day, you have to have faith in one thing or the other. It's just up to you what to believe. So we all are going to operate under the premise that we all have faith in something or the other.
Remind me to segue back to this because there is something I want to say on what you just
For sure.
stated. But the thing is,
Oh yeah, but that's the premise
from
we've set
how-
for the show, that everyone believes in something.
yeah, remind me to segue back if I forget.
For
but
sure, for sure.
we'll start it off with a question. Currently in your life, what does faith mean to you? And a follow-up to that is, how has it changed as the years have progressed?
If I'm being brutally honest, what faith means to me, it's really simple. It's the only reason I live. See, once again, we've spoken about this, where if we run down the rabbit hole of nihilism, you end up at a point where nothing matters, so do something. But I'm not a nihilist by any means whatsoever. My faith is simply the fact that tomorrow is gonna be better. I don't know why. I don't know how. I don't even know if it's true. But that's why it's faith. Because you just have to believe it. You have no choice. There's no shortcuts around it.
Okay. How do you think that's evolved from when you were younger? So how do you think you were ever an atheist? Do you think it's can you not?
What the fuck is...
Do you think you were ever an atheist? And if you were, how has that changed? And if you weren't, why?
Well, there was certainly a point where I questioned absolutely everything about my religion, but I was never atheistic. I don't think I was dumb enough at any point in time to be atheistic. I think atheism is a losing battle, right? There's nothing to gain from it. I love this example, right? And it's an example of, let's say, Shagnik, me and you, right? We both get stranded on two different savage islands, right? Oh yes, if I'm not wrong, this was stated on PBD's podcast. And now that we're both stranded on these savage islands, let's say my island has a god, right? Or they believe in some form of god. And let's say your island does not believe in any form of god. Now, for some reason, they take me in and they shelter me and they treat me as if I'm in refuge, right? But they absolutely slaughter you and eat you up. Did God save me? The concept of him did, even though God might or might not exist. The concept of God that they believed in, who said you should treat, refugees as refugees and not just immediately kill them and eat them.
The concept of God, I think, appeals to one's innate sense of responsibility, innate sense of consciousness. Because I don't think a man who believes in God, like we hear about places where believing is the norm, and a lot of those places do have very low crime rates, and you can make some differences there. I would
take Dubai for example. Take
Dubai, take even Singapore for that matter. But there are a few places in the world where there is faith that's preached and practiced, but a lot of the teachings of said faith are convoluted, confused, and they try to enforce it in ways that are not, well, let's just put it as not very upstanding.
Yeah.
But
tell me this, Shagnik. I'm curious.
Hold on. Okay. We keep missing off, so we'll stick to that question. I'll answer my piece when it comes to it.
No, I was in fact just going to throw the question right back at you.
Yeah, I think for me the journey has been a little bit different to yours, because I was atheistic for like when I was a kid. I wasn't, because my so for people who don't know, I was raised by my grandparents for the majority of my life, because my parents my dad had a very mobile job. He had to keep moving 24/7, so they weren't around much often. And I'm not saying I had a troubled childhood. I had a great time. I absolutely adore my grandparents. But so being raised with them, my grandmother still is incredibly religious. So I learned a lot, and I guess by extension, I had to be religious just because she was. And I tried to copy everything she used to do at that point. So I was when I was younger, but there was no rhyme or reason to it. It was kind of just mimicking what my family was doing at that point. And the second there was some rhyme and reason, right? I think the second I was capable of thought, I steered away from faith, because for me it was like logic, reasoning, deduction, analysis, right? It was all about that. And I thought religion divides more often than unite. So to me, it was just like a cop out in many situations, and it was like the sole contention that led to a lot of unrest in the world. I did my due diligence and thought about it for a whole bunch. Like, it wasn't an uninformed decision, but I was atheistic for the majority of my life. And I think it changed I wouldn't say very recently, but I fully internalized it very recently.
I have a question for you on that very point. Yeah. Tell me this. So you are a boxer, right?
Yes.
You've had quite a few fights in the ring. And I think it's pretty common knowledge that almost every fighter believes in God, right? Because at some point, even as a fighter, you have to understand the fact that no matter how much you train, if you're caught and you're done, right? Tell me, did that impact, or did that start the roll? Did that get the ball rolling for you starting to believe?
My belief didn't originate from chance. Like what you just said was hoping for the best, hoping for luck to go your way, right? Because you're right, you can be the best boxer in the world, you get caught with one good punch, you're knocked out, right?
Yeah.
So it wasn't that. It wasn't me hoping for the best or hoping for luck. For most people, I guess that's the reason, but for me, it wasn't. For me, it was more a way to not be stuck in stasis. Because I found in a lot of moments in my life, even though I have people all around me, I failed to connect and I failed to be happy or content in any point in my life, right? Because it was always there was a sense of what is this for, right? And I guess that mindset can put you in a lot of can get you to feel a lot of loneliness in life.
Funny how what is this for relates right back to our nihilism point.
Yeah. Like I would say nihilism is what, like, I got frustrated with it. I guess my atheism led me down that nihilism route, and I got frustrated with it eventually. And that was that. But I was so like I had internalized being an atheist so much that even when I was speaking like a God-fearing man, I would still say I'm an atheist. Like I would sit there, I'd say, I would say everything under the sun. Like I would say, yeah, you need to preach a higher creed. You cannot be stuck in your ways, and you cannot, continuously look for rhyme and reason and everything. Something just you have to believe, right? Otherwise, what is it all for? Like if there truly is no one up there, and all you're trying to do in life is trying to earn money, get rich, fuck bitches, whatever, right? What is the end goal? Like if there's no absolution, then what is it all for, right?
Agreed.
So I would talk about shit like this, but then I would also finish it with like an asterisk in the end and say, hey, no, I'm still an atheist. But yeah, it took a bit for me to be like, no, like you say boxing, right? I would say it's not the fear of that knockout punch. It's more like a 12th round where you're gassed and you're tired, right? You sit down there and you realize you're really all alone. Yeah, you have your coach scream at you and shit like that, right? Sure.
If the belief in God makes you stronger that night and allows you to win, does it even matter if God exists?
Yeah. Yeah, as long as something, like if it's beneficial, does it matter? Right? Like rhyme and reason. When I won't name any names, but when one of my very close family members passed away, right? My mother used to sit there and when I was a kid, again in my atheist mind, she used to play this. We're Hindus, by the way. She used to play this Buddhist song, right? Every day, every morning. All right. And it was bare annoying. It would be like at 7 a.m. in the morning, every day without fail. And that song still rings in my head. Like I still remember it, right? Because it was every day. And I used to think, well, this is ridiculous, right? Like at that point, the person in question was beyond saving. Like it was cancer, it had progressed, it was pretty much done, right? My mom still kept doing this. And I was like, let's just face reality here, right? And I used to get angry, almost agitated at my mother, right? But it was my dad who had to step in, and he was like, if it is helping your mom to cope, right? Why do you care?
Yeah.
Like if it makes her happier, does it matter how stupid it is?
And more importantly, if it makes them happier, who are we to stop them?
Yeah. And I truly think if not for believing in God, if not for trying to find these otherworldly meanings in life, my mom at that point would have gone insane.
Yeah.
Because Norm is someone who deeply cares about people. So she would have really drove herself insane. And this is what kept her sane. So now when I look back, it's like, was that really all that wrong? I guess not, right? Because it gave her a crutch to stand on in a very difficult time. So, yeah, so I guess it was an amalgamation of a lot of these seemingly useless, minute events that kind of made me finally be like, you know what? Like, if I'm preaching all of this and it lines up with one particular thing, might as well just own it. Right?
Yeah. Okay, tell me this. I've somewhat reached this conclusion, and this is the easiest way that I found to articulate this. I think for any field you pick, there's always a micro and a macro. And when it comes to life in itself, I believe logic, reason, and emotion work in the micro, right? They work in the day-to-day. They work when we're trying to live our lives normally. But there is a macro script rather, where some things cannot be explained by logic. And I'm not talking about some woo-woo shit. Just certain things in life that you really work hard for, and you get results beyond your imagination, because it's not just your hard work. It's the accumulation of hard work and you wanting it enough, and you believing it enough, and you praying for it enough, where you get delivered tenfold of what you put in.
But I will say, if we talk about faith, right? I guess we are associating faith straight with God, right? It doesn't have to necessarily be that. Think about it, right?
Okay. Yeah.
If you talk about hard work always pays off, right? I will wholeheartedly buy that, right? Would you say that's because God rewards the people who try hard? Or would you say that's because in situations where people try hard, right, it's just a game of statistics, probability? Because when you try hard, a person who doesn't work hard is trying the same thing twice a day. right?
Yeah.
Or maybe even once, right?
Yeah.
That's the case. Of course, the rewards, unless you're incredibly fortunate, are going to be, diminishing.
Yeah.
But if you're someone who just by the virtue of numbers is trying 20 times a day, wouldn't the chances of you actually, like your efforts bearing fruit, wouldn't that drastically increase? So wouldn't you just say it's just a statistics game at that point?
Here's what I think of it. It's okay. God does say try hard. I'm sure you can find any religion where at least one scripture will say you must work. You must not take part in inaction. That's even there in the Bhagavad Gita. But I think rather than God saying you should work hard, you will only be able to find God if you work hard. There is no other way. If we all agree that spirituality and religion is a journey, how do you complete a journey without taking a step forward? And the only way to take a step forward is by working hard. Because we know that easy things don't let you progress in life, right? Nothing easy that you do is actually helping you progress. You make your most progress when you're doing something hard, right?
Yeah.
You don't make any progress in the gym when you're warming up. You make your progress in the gym in the last rep where you're literally dying and every fiber of your muscle is screaming.
The way you want to, but at the end of the day, a lot of the teachings and a lot of the things that you're supposed to that are preached in all of these holy scriptures are backed by logic, if you really think about it. Because all right, if you talk about people who are paid for their hard work, right, people who make things work, okay, you have to understand that there is basis to that, real life basis. Because if you work hard, if you keep your head on screwed on straight, right, it will pay dividends at some point.
Yeah.
Like you can never truly go wrong with that. If you, and that applies to any sector, right?
Yeah.
You want to be a cricketer? Go train. You want to be a boxer? Go train. You want to be an investment banker? Go study it. Go invest, right?
Yeah.
That's literally the best way to do it. So a lot of the teachings are based in logic, especially when it comes to talk about character. Maybe the way it's said to you might not initially strike as logical, but read into it one step further, right? And then you kind of understand what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Right?
A lot of these things and the sayings that people get confused with, you have to look at it from two lenses at all points in time. There's a micro lens and there's a macro lens. If you look at the micro lens and if you look at just one saying and you focus on what exactly that means, you'll not get it. Look at it in the bigger picture and how this applies to everyone in life, not just you, how this applies to nature, how this applies to the workings of the universe. And it will make sense.
Yeah, since we talk so much about fitness as well, you just mentioned, things being easy and hard. The reason doing something that's hard bears fruit most of the time is because if it were easy, again, it's a numbers game. Think how many people do it. How many people can sit down here and do 2 push-ups?
Yeah.
I would say that's a rather high number, right? But does that mean you have a good physique? Does that mean you're healthy?
No.
Absolutely not, right?
Yeah.
You could
tell me this, Shagnik. If it was easy to find God, why would we need God? Like, if it was easy to find him and if everyone like truly believed and was truly faithful, none of us would do anything, right? Because life would always be great. It's the whole struggle. Every day you wake up and you think to yourself, life is fucked, but I still have to believe. It's that struggle between these two ends that keeps you going. Because if you were blindly truly believing the fact that God exists and you know that God exists, you would be no less than a monk or a sage. Right. It's the fact that you're fighting with yourself every day to say that even though God exists, there is still treachery happening in this world, and I must still do my best to survive.
And I think decisions made from faith are the only decisions that provide absolution.
Oh yeah.
That are absolute in nature, because every other decision, if it's conditional on X, Y, and Z, right? If you're a good person because this happened and you think you need to be a good person, that condition can, just how easy it was for you to become that person, could easily just fade. If it's conditional, it will go away at some point, right? Yeah. The second it's tested, believe in anything, whatever your creed may be. If it's conditional and that condition gets tested, your link to that condition will break.
Oh yeah. And I want to link back to something you said. You asked, why are we referring to faith as only God, right? And it just struck me now. because I was thinking on it, like that thought that you mentioned was stuck in my head. Don't you think if we did not have such definite rules saying this is right and wrong, our moral compass would be at least to a certain degree fucked? Sure, we would not murder and rape, right? Because that's just not us. But don't you think there are certain, like, let's say we were on the
Do you
street.
mean like us specifically talking about us,
As people as well, but I'm talking about us right now, right? Like, we wouldn't commit heinous crimes, but let's say we saw food on the street and we were hungry and there was no God telling us this was the right thing to do. Wouldn't you just want to go take it and eat it? You're so hungry. Like, it's the fact that you know that this is wrong. I cannot steal. I should not steal. I must pay for it with money. Right. Don't you think if it wasn't for that, we would be at least a little morally fucked?
I mean,
God at least aligns us a little.
I've had that experience in my life personally.
Yeah.
Being godless and not believing in really anything. I had a point where morally, ethically, I was a really questionable individual. I think a lot of that still stays with me, but at least not to a point where I would do something so questionable that it's outright considered fucked. You get what I mean? You can't spin it any way to make it sound like it's a good thing, right? I made a lot of decisions like that in the past, and hurt a lot of people in the process. But I think finding meaning in things genuinely did lead me to, at the very least, more empathetic towards people.
I want to touch upon one line you just mentioned. I want to find meaning in things. I don't think as humans we find meaning in anything. I think we give things meaning.
Yeah.
Right? There is no point in me sitting here and you sitting here and us talking. It's because we decide to give it meaning that we're even having this conversation. We've decided to call each other our friends. We've decided that we're going to do this together. We're going to do that together. We're going to try this, try that. We give meaning to each and everything, including God. It's not that God exists or doesn't. You can define it yourself, and you should define it yourself. That's the whole point. You give it meaning.
And see, there's a reason, right? This was the segue I was talking about earlier. I think it's a good time to bring it up.
Oh, yeah.
I talked to you about this before. Don't you think if it was such a bad thing, if rhyme and reason was the only way to go, if that was the way to go, why do you think everyone who's on the upper echelon of society ends up being a believer? Think about it this way, right? I'm not talking about your Musks and Gates, though they all believe in God. We're not talking about those guys. You can even talk about people, anyone who's in some level of success in their lives, right? Doctors, lawyers, engineers, right?
Mm-hmm.
At some point in their lives, they reach a phase where it's like, well, I have gotten everything I could possibly dream of, right? Since we keep talking about boxing on this podcast as well, Tyson Fury, right? You reach a point where it's like, what now, right?
When you can buy everything that money has to offer.
Yeah, if
you will go insane if you don't believe there's something more.
Yeah, if money is what drives you, what do you do when you're like, what do you do if you're Elon Musk? You see a building, you're like, I want that building. You could buy it. Like, what then, right? If you have that much money, that anything that the mind can dream of, you can make. What do you do after that? What do you believe in? If money is your creed, and that just goes back to the point I made. It's finite. It's not complete. Every other creed other than God, maybe you can say that's because it's based on delusion. But sure, it's a delusion that helps people. If it is based on delusion, it's the only delusion that helps, because it's not finite. Every other world.
I love that you said this. I love that you said this because it reminded me of something. I was in the shower 3 weeks ago and I had this thought. I was just sitting there and I was just thinking. I think I figured out a concept to explain how spirituality works in the easiest way possible. I call it God's maze. Okay. And I hope to make a t-shirt line on this one day. Right. It's an open-ended circular maze. Right. With one goal at the center of the circle. Now, what an open-ended maze means is it's not like there are specific entry points into the maze. It's an open-ended circular maze, which means it's infinite entry points. And all of us are trying to get in from every single angle. There are many ways to get there, and there are many trials and tribulations along the way. But the end goal is the same. We all reach the same conclusions in life when you go far enough down the spirituality rabbit hole, or when you get far enough in life, successful, far enough financially, and you've achieved everything you ever want to achieve. We all reach the same rabbit hole. So there you go. God's maze. It's an open circular maze with the goal at the center of it. And 7 fucking billion people trying to just get in.
Fair. Yeah, so personally, that's just how, for me, my faith evolved over time. And I think I'm a lot better off for it at this point. And I think perhaps one thing that I mean, we should mention really is the fact that if you don't believe, however, sorry, if you do believe, there is a side to it that starts getting a little radical, right?
Oh, yes.
And we see this in every religion, right?
Mhm.
It's when it goes from it's my faith to being it's the only faith, right? When you end up, when pride becomes more than that,
Mhm.
that's when it's an issue, right?
Yeah.
When pride becomes ego,
Yeah.
problem. Because a lot of these people, I think, at this point, we see this all around the world. A lot of these conflicts are based on religion,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because what they think they're right and the other is wrong.
Oh, yeah. I'm so glad you brought this up. I was watching this video the other day, and it was of Jawaharlal Nehru, right? And he was talking about India and Hinduism in particular, Hinduism not being a proselytizing religion. I don't know why that stuck with me. The word proselytize is to essentially push forward and try and indoctrinate your political or religious beliefs onto other people, right? And this word was very interesting because I did not know this before. And it's something that we do every single day, if you really think about it, Shaknik.
Yeah.
We proselytize every single day. Even if you tell me, Rohan, you should try this in your coffee, that's you trying to tell me your way of life, right? You're trying to get me into your belief. So I just wanted to bring that up real quick. It's a really cool word, proselytize.
Well, if you are doing that, if you're trying to see, it's a difference between trying to share your beliefs as recommendations. It's one thing trying to force someone into it.
Yeah.
Right. Like a lot of the times, and I think that's where the line gets drawn. More so, the line gets convoluted, because if you think about it, right?
Yeah.
I'm not trying to ruffle any feathers here, but a lot of tolerant religions, tolerant creeds and ideologies want to be welcoming towards others, right? But it fails when the person in question that they're trying to welcome does not give a flying fuck about them, right? When the whole conversation becomes, I will let you in, but the person they're letting in is radicalized to a point that they want you dead. They don't respect you. They don't like you, right?
Yeah.
That's when the question starts arising, that what do I get for my tolerance? What do I get for being, well, a good person, right?
Yeah.
That's a very interesting point to note, because there has to be a line drawn. And I think that's why a lot of people struggle with faith, because I know the boat that I was on when I was atheist, a lot of people are. Like, it was not a, it's not like I was dying on that hill. There's quite a few people who would think the same way, because religion has caused some divide. But I think if you look into it a little bit, it's not the religion that's causing the divide. It's
The interpretation. Unplanned.
Because no one's really preaching one world order, right?
Yeah.
But the people are.
Well, I know someone who's preaching one world order, but I don't want to get canceled.
You?
No, I'm saying we both know who's preaching the one world order, but we can't get canceled just yet, so we'll shut our mouths.
Yeah. But I think I'm like, if you are someone who listens to this and wants to believe, I would say just remember to have a very strong moral basis on what's right when it comes to faith. Don't teeter on that line where you want to push your beliefs onto a people, where you demean them or think of them as lesser because they don't believe in the same thing that you do.
Yeah.
It's the same with everything in life. If you have a friend who is doing arts. For example, I'm not saying arts is inferior. Your friend who's doing arts and you're someone who's doing a science subject, are you gonna view them as lesser?
Certainly not.
But it's kind of like that now.
Nobody. Yeah. One more thing about faith. This might sound a little tacky, but faith is a leap of faith, right? And here's the other thing. What do you have to lose? I don't get it. You have nothing to lose. If you believe, nothing about your life is going to change. No one's asking you to start praying 5 times a day. But if you truly believe it, you will see the benefits from it yourself. You have to want it bad enough. KSI said this, right after his fight with Logan Paul. It just came down to who wanted it more in that last round. And you have to want it so much. And you have to believe in it so much that, you get your way.
Yeah.
You have to be arrogant with life. There's no other way it works. And you can be arrogant if you have faith. If you don't have faith, how can you be arrogant? What is backing your ego? Right?
Yeah.
We talk shit, sure, but at least we have, apart from what we've done in this world, it's the fact that I know and he knows that we haven't done people wrong and God isn't going to frown upon us. Right? We're not trying to hurt anyone.
People often confuse what's considered being a good person. And I think in life, aggression, arrogance is often inferred as being a net negative. But again, read into it a little bit more. Think about it this way. Is being nice just being inactive? Is that what we're preaching?
Exactly.
If being nice is inactive, then I don't want to be nice. All right. If you're saying that a person who doesn't answer back, a person who turns the other cheek, right?
Yeah.
Is being nice, I think that's just a weak person.
Yeah, sorry.
Are we saying weak people are nice people and strong people can't be nice?
Absolutely not. But weak people are nice out of necessity.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude, I love that you mentioned this once again. I was having this conversation with someone a while ago, right? Being nice is not letting you do what you want. Me being nice to Shagnik is not letting him do what he wants. It's me telling him when I know he's fucking up. That's me being nice, right? Tate said this once again. Love is a strong emotion. It's not, oh, I love you, do whatever you want. If you have love for someone, you will tell them the things that are right for them. Now, of course, you can't force them to do anything. But if they don't believe you, and if they don't trust the fact that you're coming from a good place, right? Then
at least your conscience is clear.
Your conscience is clear, right? And my cousin brother told me this, and we can end it on this. I love this line, and I love him for saying this. Shagni, he asked me, do you know what the most precious thing in the world is? Take a guess.
It's just respect, love.
No. The most precious thing in the world is a clear conscience. Yeah. It doesn't matter if everyone leaves you. It matters that you know you did not commit the grave sins that would have kept you in that situation, right?
Yeah, fair. I mean, if you say guilt is the worst emotion a man can feel,
absolutely,
then the flip side to that would be a clear conscience.
Yeah, it's the most precious thing. Yeah. But yeah, looks like this is one good episode for faith. I think we can potentially make this a two-parter, delve in a little deeper, have a little more nuanced arguments. But yeah, that's it. Any last words, Shagnik?
No, I think that's a very good place to end. I really like this episode. Yeah. Very insightful one.
Even I quite liked it. It came out a lot better than I thought it would.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. All right then. Peace, lads.
Yep.